Hello and welcome to the Dyslexia Life Hacks podcast. My name is Matthew Head. On this episode, we're going to look into dyslexia when it comes to inventions. My guest today is Jock Boyle. Jock left school when he was young with no qualifications and labelled slow. Having done some military service, he spent most of his life working as a lorry driver for over 25 years. During this time, his brain baked away in the background and came up with a new invention. This invention reduces blind spots on large vehicles, which could have a huge impact on road safety, particularly for pedestrian cyclists and motorcyclists. He has patents pending, as well as I saw this week, he has a new patent in his name. So welcome to the podcast, Jock.
Thank you.
So I thought what I'd do is dive straight into how you think being dyslexic is an advantage when it comes to being an inventor.
I think knowing that you can think differently about things, it's like having foresight and just the way you process the information. Yeah, and it's been like that from a very young age.
Yes.
It's only recently that I've found out that it's dyslexia.
Oh, okay. So did you find as a kid you were probably having something that you didn't quite work for you, and you would come up with some random solution in the background or an alternative to doing it?
Yeah, I've always known I've been different and been left-handed, so I was always adapting things or working out how I could use it left-handed. But you know that's the dyslexic in me as well is figuring it out.
Yes. Because how did you find out, by the way? Because you're saying you only found out sort of recently you're dyslexic. So have you spent most of your life kind of not quite sure why things don't quite work the way you expect them to?
Yeah, I've always known that I've been different. But it's only recently, when dyslexic became commonplace and recognised as, I think.
Oh, okay. So did you go get yourself statemented or tested, or did it just kind of read around it? It was like,
that's something that I've never done. And
okay.
Because I see it now as, I'm left-handed and I don't need to be diagnosed as being left-handed because I know I'm left-handed. I've got all the traits of dyslexia, so I don't need to. But it's completely different now because, being diagnosed now when you're young, then you can get all the help that's there for you.
Yes.
Because it's recognised now and there's not as much stigma attached to it. But I'm not likely to go back to school. So
never say never.
no, well, I will. But I obviously follow all your hacks as well.
Yes, thank you.
So, if I'm having a problem with something, then there's lots of sources of how to combat it, and that's the inventor in me as well, because I'm faced with a problem and then I work out how I can solve that problem for me. Yes.
That brings me on to your lens. In my head, I'm imagining you driving around the Highlands in a sort of 44-ton HGV, looking out across the scenery and looking at the A-pillar on the truck, thinking, I need to do something about that. Or did it come up with you in the middle of the night as you woke up like, I know what I should do?
No, it goes back to when my first driving lesson in Berlin in a car.
Oh, Berlin, okay.
So I'm on my first driving lesson, all keen and checking around.
Is that when you were in the military, or did you end up in Berlin?
Yeah, no, I was in Berlin with the Black Watch.
Oh, wow, okay.
So the first 10 minutes behind the wheel, and I was turning a corner, and as I went round the corner, a cyclist ran into me. Now,
jeez.
The cyclist was in the right because they've got the right of way there. I think the German system is great.
Okay.
And it should be included here. But he hit me. He was fine. There wasn't any damage or anything else. But the instructor's like, he says, oh, right, you need to be aware of the pillars are a blind spot and you need to check them. He says, plus you wear glasses. I says, so that, everybody has peripheral blind spots in their glasses.
Yes.
So you've got to adjust, turn that extra bit to cancel that out. So that, it's always been with me.
Okay.
So yeah, I was a HGV driver for over 25 years, and the blind spots in HGVs were bad when I first started driving. But then 12 years ago, they included the Class 4 mirror, the wide angle one, because there was too many accidents at the side of HGVs.
Yeah, so that's the smaller mirror below the main mirror, isn't it? The wide angle. Yes, very.
So that kind of reduced the numbers of the accidents at the sides. But for the drivers, what it meant was it doubled the size of the mirror clusters, so you couldn't see forward.
Yes. So that kind of.
So basically, it moved where the accidents happened from the side to the front.
Right. Yes.
So take it on a few years, and I was watching a YouTube clip, and it was of an accident, and I thought, I know why that accident happened. It's because the car and the HGV have both been doing the same speed. So the truck was coming up to the junction, and the car was going up the main road, and he had a dash cam on. And I knew the driver would be looking, but not being able to see anything through the mirror. And it wasn't until they came out the junction that he eventually saw it. He missed them. The boy went off the road. But so I thought, well, surely there is something now to negate that problem. And I had a look, and there wasn't. So I thought, right, I know how I can fix that. So I tried out a few things. I used dash cams.
Yes.
But that was kind of expensive because obviously you got blind spots either side. So that was two dash cam cameras.
Yes.
And by the time you focused on it, so it was a good idea, but expensive and a bit tricky. And I'd been using Fresnel lenses in the passenger window to see into that blind spot.
Yes, that's the ones that stick on the window itself. Like some left-hand drive lorries have them, don't they, when they're over in the UK? Yes, okay. Yeah.
And more of the UK ones should have them now as well, because there's more accidents, side swipe accidents, because of the smart motorways and slip roads and junctions.
Yes, okay.
Because that's a massive blind spot.
Yes, I can imagine you could lose a full-blown 5 Series estate in a blind spot, yes.
So I came up with Mark I lenses for HGVs. I made up the prototype and then filed for the patent. That was the easy part.
So is this lens like a sort of optical curved device that kind of just bends light around? How does it kind of work to
basically
without giving away your secrets, obviously?
Well, it's very simple. It's basically the Fresnel lens.
Yes.
Turned on its side.
Okay.
And it had a slightly different focal point, and it was mounted on the mirror clusters.
Okay, so effectively it almost makes the A-pillar on a truck between the door and the windscreen invisible, or you're allowed to bend light around it so it eliminates that blind spot.
That's how it works. It enlarges your peripheral field of view by bending the light.
Quite fascinated, actually, that you started thinking about this in Berlin and it come to fruition in the 2000s. So do you think that's your sort of brain just baking away in the background with it all the way through until the catalyst of the YouTube video jumped this idea to the top?
No, because basically the way I process information, and I love solving problems.
Yes, quite a lot of dyslexic people.
Right, so imagine me, right, driving, 15-hour days all by myself and on the radio to listen to.
Yeah.
So I used to, think about problems and how would I solve that and figure it out, go through the processes, right? If I did that, done A, that would affect B, right? So that would work. So you're going through every different option and scenario to I was happy with myself that I'd solved it. And then once it was solved in my mind, I could put it to one side and forget about it and go on to the next problem. So I've spent 20 years solving problems.
So is there a whole catalogue of inventions that are going to come out of you?
Yes. That is it. I know that off the back of this one,
yes,
I will be very quickly submitting the patents for several other.
Wow.
And they're just as big. They're just as big. But from that initial idea and the patent, I then had to. So my next problem was, right, how do I commercialise it?
Yes, because we were talking in the prelim to this, weren't we? I hadn't thought of this. Like the invention's almost the straightforward bit. Now, you're now having to make a business and patent it. And you're a guy who's, as you said, left school with no qualifications. And at the time you went to school, dyslexia really wasn't a thing. And you found out later on as you've become more aware of it. So I guess this is where the struggle comes from. Your brain that thinks in an alternative way is cooking up all these inventions as you're driving around the Highlands. And now you've got a business that ties it, which I guess is now the long road, isn't it? How do you go about doing anything like that? It's not something I've ever had to do. Yeah,
but you see, there's... for me, it was an adventure. And it was just...
Good.
the way I looked at it was, right, here's another problem. What do I have to do next?
Oh, brilliant. I like it. It just challenges to get stuck into. Yes.
So I knew... I sort of had I went to startup conferences and learned what you needed to start up a business and everything required, bookkeepers and tax and sales. And so right. First of all, number one, right, a bookkeeper.
Yes.
Because I'd already, spoken to HMRC and everybody like that, and I knew that there was no way that I could communicate with them and understand them. So no. I went to I found an account and then I've changed that a couple of times. Now I've got a bookkeeper that I understand, that understands me, and we get on a great because she just fires me an email with what she needs and I get it back to her.
Oh, brilliant. So you kind of almost division of labour. You are aware the bookkeeping side of it and the kind of that side of the business is not your strong point. So it liberates you to get on with what you are good at.
And I think that's the problem with lots of inventors. because they have the idea and they've got a vision of where it's going to go and how it's going to sell and everything else, but there's a lot more to it.
Yes.
I've helped a few other inventors or tried to help a few other inventors, and some of them they think their idea's perfect and it doesn't need to change or doesn't need anything. Their name for it is fantastic, and but that's not the process. So I've got a couple. One guy, he was adamant that because people have been telling, "Oh yeah, great idea" and everything, he wasn't going to change anything about it or accept any help because he knew it was going to, and it didn't work.
Don't.
Well, it was a good idea, but he wasn't willing to give anything of it away or accept that it was going to change.
Yes, so too entrenched in his own thinking to be able to kind of, because I suppose it doesn't matter how good your idea is, if you can't get it to market or in front of enough people, there are millions of them, I imagine, in the world that just sit in the back of somebody's shed. Yeah,
I mean, it's you see the people, I've watched Dragon's Den for day one.
Yes.
And you see people going on there, they've got fantastic ideas, but no business sense at all.
Yes. So how did you, because obviously we've sort of spoken about how school system it didn't work for yourself, I suppose, putting it politely. Now, all of this business stuff needs a fair bit of sort of academic, doesn't it? I imagine you're having to read a lot of things, write a lot of letters and stuff to people, and you're using written communication as well as your verbal to put your invention in front of people. You seem quite good verbally, and that's probably the advantage dyslexic people come up with. How did you find the other stuff? How did you try and, I don't know, mitigate, or what sort of way did you find to work around some of the other stuff that you just may struggle with?
Well, it's fascinating because I've always been good at networking.
Yes.
So I reach out to people that have that knowledge. I say, right, I've got this. How do I do that? And a few years ago, I connected with Alison Edgar, the dyslexic author of, she's a godmother of entrepreneurs, and she had a book, The Secrets of Sales.
Right.
So I read about that and their methodology. And because she's dyslexic, I understood it.
Yes.
Because I understood her methodology. And I thought, that's how that works. That's how you speak to people. That's, it's the disc method where, people have got different colours. Yes,
I think I'm aware of it.
So basically, for then, I realised that, right, so I was selling myself as well as selling the product. And that's how I've approached things. I did have somebody that was, lockdown came, and that totally changed everything for me.
Yes.
I was nearly having to give up because 6 months prior to the first lockdown, I had to give up my full-time paid job, which
was still driving lorries.
Yeah, I was driving. Okay. And I was testing the lenses out and everything. And
I can imagine you were going to work in the morning, sticking stuff on the screen of the lorry to try it out.
But I mean, it's and I was driving around about London and all over the country.
Oh, that certainly gives you a good test drive around London.
But that's where it's the traffic and cyclists and
yes,
murder. But
yes.
So that's where I had to give that up because my wife had an accident and lost her mobility,
Oh, no.
Which, again, me being me, that was a problem. But it was sorted because I converted the room downstairs that had an ensuite.
Yeah.
I put in handrails and made everything up so that she didn't have to come up the stairs.
Excellent. Quite practical then.
Yeah. And I had to wait for the council or whoever to come in and do an assessment. It was nearly 6 months before we actually got any assistance in.
Oh, wow.
So,
as well as running a business and having no full-time income.
Well, as running a business. But what I did do was, at the time, I was driving a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday away.
Yes.
So, to give me Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to do courses, speak to people, have meetings, during the middle of the week.
Yes.
So 3 days working on learning how to build a business and speak to people and do the books and get cost and everything. So I was like 7 days a week, 7 days a week working. Yeah.
Wow.
But then the lockdown came in, and then Zoom came. And I found that I could attend courses. I could speak to anybody anywhere in the world that I wanted to speak to. Whereas before, the first couple of years that I was working on it, I was going to conferences in London, so there was the travel, the expense.
Yes.
Conference. It was costing me 300 quid to go to this conference on the chance of speaking to somebody. So
you were hacking Zoom basically to get to who you needed to speak to.
So whenever Zoom came in, I was like, yes, that is fantastic. And it just made the world a difference.
Yes, I can imagine. I hadn't even thought of things like that because I was talking to somebody the other day. They were talking about the Institute of Engineering Technology. They have regional conferences each year.
Yeah.
But this year it's a global one because it doesn't matter what region you're in. You just join in. Because who cares? Why do we have a regional conference on Zoom? What's the point? So, yeah, I hadn't thought of it like that. So that must have really helped you drive things forwards because is your business pretty much you and a few smatterings of employees to kind of delegate tasks to, or are you sort of slowly growing?
Me.
Yeah.
No, because I've financed everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Myself, right, and it's not cheap.
No, I can imagine.
And there was all the money for obviously going to these conferences and trying to speak to people, go to shows and exhibitions. I did do an exhibition previously in London, but I went to all the exhibitions just to speak to people about what I was working on.
And how do you find response for that? How are people?
It's always been great. Once I discovered how to explain it to people to understand.
Yes.
Because me explaining it as a HGV driver about HGVs, people didn't get it.
Okay.
But because I've now developed it for every vehicle, because every vehicle has that problem.
Yes, because believe it or not, car makers care whether the car rolls on its roof in an accident, so they have to beef up the pillars.
Yes. So the pillars are 2 or 3 times the size.
Yes.
To accommodate the airbags, just in case you're involved in
Yeah. And if you're upside down or any of that kind of stuff, the roof needs to cope with the stress of it. Yeah. Yes.
And we all wear seatbelts in case you're involved in an accident.
Yes.
But what is the major cause of accidents?
Not seeing anybody.
Not being able to see anybody. Why? Because we can't see through the pillars. We can't check the blind spots because we've got the seatbelt on. So yes, great. At least you're going to survive a crash. But that crash might be because you haven't looked.
Or you've seen but not seen, is the classic one, isn't it? Sorry, I didn't see you there, mate. Accident, or SMIDI, as it's referred to sometimes. Yeah, I hadn't realised you'd rolled it out to cars too.
It's because I don't want to put that much out there until I'm actually making them. Because
yes, I can see that.
Although they're protected now for internationally protected for the first 12 months. It means that anybody that copies it within that 12 months, they'll have to give me all their money, basically.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, because you're in breach of patent and there's no prior art or anything like that. So no. Oh, okay. So this is purely an aftermarket device, or are you starting to try and approach, I'd say, Volvo trucks or Scanias or Mercedes-Benz or whoever the major manufacturers?
The way I'm planning to do this is, obviously, commercial is a bigger problem.
Yes.
So I'm looking at going to all the different haulage companies, bus companies, fleets, rentals, and that side of things, because that's a market that I know and I've been talking to for years. So I already know I've got interest in 20-30, selling 20-30,000 units.
Oof, okay. That sounds like a good number.
Plus, with Transport for London bringing in the direct vision standard law,
yes,
in which they want to reduce the amount of dangerous vehicles that are in London, which was great for me because, it saved me doing 4 years of research into the causation of accidents and how to solve that problem.
Oh, of course, because they've just done it for you.
They've done everything for me. And all the recommendations, like bigger windscreens, lower level, glass in the door, as everything is covered by my lenses and Lenstech lenses that I've just picked up with.
Oh, is Lenstech an alternative company to yourself, is it?
Well, they provide the lenses for the passenger windows, and I mean the Fresnel lenses are useful in other things as well. They also do solar cookers for the third world. That's a joint venture with Strathclyde University. Okay. They also do the wee mirror things for ATMs. Behind you.
Yes.
So they've got a kind of varied thing, and plus we're working on a joint venture.
Wow.
That I can't say an awful lot about, but
fair enough.
It is another safety lens.
No. So what is your thoughts on? I've seen some lorries now are getting the mirror cluster removed, and they're putting cameras on little like Trek ears on the side. Is that what is your thought on that? Because that kind of eliminates the cluster being in the way, but doesn't eliminate the A pillar.
No, it just the only selling point for those mirrorless ones or the cameras is they're selling it to the companies as being more fuel economical.
Yeah, less drag with the mirrors. That makes sense. So it doesn't actually improve the visibility around the truck then?
No. You see, the problem is they're not that reliable.
Okay.
And
that's scary for a mirror on the truck.
Yes. The driver is looking at monitors, right?
Yes.
So it takes that a bit longer to process that information.
Because your eyes have to refocus to the non-natural.
Yeah.
Ah, of course, yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
So it might look, I can see what's here. But it's your brain that's processing the information.
Yeah.
And it takes just that wee bit longer. Plus, the size of the monitors and where they have the monitors, well, you still can't see through them.
Right. I see. They've stuck them in the way, basically.
Yeah.
So right.
all they've done is move the mirrors inside.
I see. Same problem, just outside the truck, right?
So you've still got that problem.
So your lens is still important.
Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like you're really going places with this. It's great to hear that, coming from a long way back, where driving around in Berlin and tipping a cyclist over, and struggling at school, that you're now not only a successful inventor, sounds like you're a successful entrepreneur to go with it.
Yeah. And it is because I like to find out how things work. So I went into all the research, and it did take me a while to read. But
did you do anything to get round helping you with reading? Because I imagine reading is not your strong point.
Obviously, I've followed your hacks. No, but it has, over the years, I've come up with my own version of how it works for me, and I think that's what works.
Well, considering this is Dyslexia Life Hacks podcast, do you want to expand on what your hacks are for your version for you? Because I'm always up for new hacks.
Well, it's basically everything that's there, but just my way of doing it. I'll see something and I'll go, right, how can I use that? And I'll try it. And then if it works, then I'll use it, or change it a wee bit and say, all right, it might work better for me this way. And that's it.
Okay, yeah. So you kind of read a hack, say on the website or wherever you've read it, and then just sort of customize it slightly to your own needs, which is kind of what it's there for. Like, it's to get people turned on to these ideas, and then always make them your own after a while. Because why not?
Yeah.
Wow, no, that is really cool. What would your advice be to sort of young dyslexics or young inventors from your experience of going through this process?
Anything is possible, and anybody can do anything. And being dyslexic is, for me, I see myself better than being normal. Because, everybody can be normal, but nobody can be, not everybody can be dyslexic.
Oh, no.
And it is a gift.
Yes, I agree.
I see that in education. And now you look at the last year with education and people going for their hires and, all that. But in the future, people will say, well, you've got those qualifications during COVID. So they don't mean nothing because, they were giveaway.
Yes, you're referring to the fact that they haven't sat exams. The teachers have graded them. That's,
So it's a different system.
Yes, it is, compared to before, yeah.
So, and it's, I've never been one for labels. I hate labels.
Yes.
Because as soon as you put a label on it, then you're judged to be either this or that. And for me, people might look at me and say, oh, you're just a HGV driver. What does he know about business? But I'll look at it differently and say, well, I've been an employee all of my life.
Yes.
And I know what a good business is. And I know how a good business is run. And that's how I'm going to run my business.
Yes, I can see what you mean. You've spent most of your life, and you've probably worked for some not so good businesses too, if you've been driving lorries for 25 years. But it's just data you're collecting all the time, the same way as you're collecting data and coming up with inventions as you're driving along to pour into your business.
Yeah. I mean, we all learn by mistake, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Right. So I learn by other people's mistakes.
Yes, you can learn by mistakes. They don't just necessarily have to be yours.
So I've got a mentor who is also dyslexic, is also an inventor.
Oh, yeah.
Tanya Ewan, she was the event, a woman of inspiration 2017, and she was an inventor of something. It was for reading your energy output and gas readings.
Okay.
And she had that patented, and she had her business going and everything else. And she involved her family and funding everything. But that went bust because the Chinese just copied it and improved it a wee bit and figured it out. And, for inventors, you've not got the money to fight big companies. That's why you need insurance to do that, which I have now got.
With the patent?
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you find the patenting process? Being an engineer, I sometimes have to check patents to make sure I'm not breaching them when I'm designing stuff for cars and bikes. But how did you find the process of that? Because that's quite a lot of legal wrangling, which I imagine is not necessarily in your strong point.
No, but I had a look around different patent attorneys, right?
Yes.
And seen what experience they had. Mm-hmm. And who they worked with and things like that. And I eventually came across the patent attorney that I've got now, because he started off his career as a patent office examiner. So he knew what would work in patent draft or, a patent claims.
Yes.
What he would be looking for. So he knew everything to cover. So that's why I chose him.
It sounds to me that not only are you a brilliant inventor with quite a creative mind that just sits away in the background coming up with ideas, but you seem really good at finding the right people to help you along this journey. Like every example you've come up with during our talk has always been, I've researched this and I found multiple people and found other people who've done this and then extracted who I believe is the best person to drive my idea forward, which is your invention.
But this is me now. Because I've made all those mistakes before.
Yes.
I've had companies do work for me, and it wasn't anywhere near what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found a company that could do what I wanted and delivered what I had in my mind exactly. And I'm like, race.
Yes, of course. But that's the thing, isn't it? I like the idea of, have you ever heard the expression failing forwards? So, where you fail, but you actually take a step forwards because now you've learned something to move on. The only place that failing tends to be a problem is education, unfortunately. But as adults, we just need to fail a bit more often sometimes.
One of the greatest inventors, certainly he's a hero of mine, is Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm.
Now he's thousands of patents.
Yes. And
he was dyslexic.
Yes, he was. Yes.
Since discovering the dyslexic and the amount of inventors that were dyslexic, and go back through time, it's easier to find one that's it's harder to find one that isn't dyslexic. Yeah.
Non-typical things would not get thought up necessarily by very typical people, I guess.
Just yesterday we had Richard Branson going up into space.
We did, yes, I saw that, yeah.
because he had that dream years ago. Now, the way he does everything is an inspiration to Dyslexic and everybody else. You know,
yes, it is.
I heard recently that he's not using people's CV or the qualifications on CVs now.
No,
because he didn't have any qualifications, so yeah.
I like. I've heard an interview somewhere that he was one of his ways of testing whether the manuals and stuff for his business are any good is he reads them. Because reading's not his great point, being quite heavily dyslexic. If he can't read them, then they failed the test.
And basically, that is it. You've got to be able to understand it.
Yes. So, one thing, some of the examples, like you were saying with Branson and yourself, is just the grit and determination, like the amount of things you've done to keep this invention going forwards and your business moving. That's quite a lot of determination from yourself to get it done. What do you think drives you in that way, or where did you learn it?
I think it's a combination of two things: is proving that I'm right.
Yes.
And everybody, like the school, were wrong.
Yes.
Now, is that driving force? But I mean, I'm the same with everything I've done. Twice I've went to court to defend myself on speeding tickets.
Okay.
Twice I cleared my name.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And twice I've taken the DWP to court because...
Department of Work and Pensions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I don't like the system. Wow.
Well, why do you not like their system?
Well, I was going on when my wife had the accident and I had to give up my work, I had to go and sign on, right?
Yes,
now,
yes.
Being dyslexic and not being good at forms, I went to the job centre.
I can see where this is going.
And I was told at the door, "Oh, no, you just do it online now." I says, "Sorry, I'm dyslexic. I can't do it online." She went, "All right, I will get you somebody." So I was I eventually got sat down in front of a woman and she went through, the first question was, she says, "Why are you coming to this job centre? Because you've got one closer to you." And I said, "Yes, but I want to start up my company and I need to get help to get onto the new enterprise allowance,
right,
so that I can get help forming my company because I'm dyslexic."
Yes.
So basically she says, well, there's nothing we can do for you. Just a way down, because she says, your wife will get PIP, so that'll make you, if she gets PIP, you'll not get unemployment.
Sorry, what's PIP?
Personal Independence Payment.
Ah, okay. Yep.
So she sent me away to the citizen advice. And then after about 3 months trying to figure out the PIP and getting that payment, the citizen advice says, no, you should actually be getting unemployment because you're technically unemployed. I eventually got that, and I put in an appeal about not getting that money or getting fobbed off.
Yes.
I kept on putting in the appeals, and I went to court, and I was found. The judge found that I was right, but he said it was more a question of their attitude towards me. So it was that, and then going through the PIP, same DWP. So I already knew the system.
Yes.
So they knocked us back for it a couple of times, and I just appealed it. and then went to court and won it. So we eventually got what we were due. But it's finding out, it's my grit and determination to prove that I'm right and they're wrong.
No, well done. I mean, if they are not helping you because you're dyslexic, that's not very good at all.
Yeah. And there's loads of instances. When COVID first hit,
yes,
obviously, like the shops and that were putting up screens and everything. Well, the local shop, because I was using plastic and I had quite a bit of it kicking about, I went into the shop and said, right, have you got a screen? No. I said, right, I'll make you one. So I made Dean one. I went round to the chippy. Now,
priorities here, I can see. Local shop and then the chippy.
So I was in the chippy quite a lot. So I made Dean one as well.
Yeah.
Because not only was I keeping Dean open and safe, I was keeping myself safe as well.
Of course, yeah.
And I was making sure my chippy was open.
Yeah, got to keep fed. Yeah. Brilliant.
I mean, I like doing. I like fixing things. I mean, I grew up with my dad. My dad was an engineer. He did all sorts of things. But one of them was he used to fix washing machines, and that's where I learned it. And it's something I do for fun. I fix people's washing machines or hoovers or whatever. People.
You're quite the man in your local community. Then everybody bring you all their kit to fix.
Yeah, but I mean, there's just been a new law passed where things have got to be repairable because
yes.
It's got to a stage where nobody can repair anything, or you get a call out, and the call out costs more than just crazy.
Yes, I know what you mean. It's now cheaper to buy a new washing machine than get the motor, the brushes in the motor of your current one. And yes, that's not doing the world much good, is it? Unfortunately. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is to wind this up. Really, is I've got a few rapid fire questions. They don't necessarily need rapid fire answers. We've kind of touched on a few anyway, but I've been asking all my guests this because it's kind of fun. So, first one is: what prejudice did you have about dyslexia that you have proven wrong or has been proven wrong?
I think everything.
Yeah.
People see it as a disability, and I don't see it that way at all. It's just different.
I agree. That's what I agree. And if you were having to describe what being dyslexic is to an alien that come from another planet, how would you do that?
Better than normal. Because I see people that are neurotypical, and they're all sheep, and they all do the same thing, and they're all influenced by the same way. Where if I see something that doesn't work, I won't do it. Whereas they will, that's the rules. I've got to do it that way. And it just doesn't make, if it doesn't make sense to me.
Well, you spent a lifetime having been somebody that the sort of regular system didn't work for them, i.e. the school system, having to find alternative ways to do stuff. And now you're putting it to good use to save some lives, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you for spending some time on today. It's been really interesting. It's gone in places I was surprised it was going to, but it's been really interesting hearing about not only being an inventor, but the business side of it really surprised me. So, thank you very much for coming on.
That's the hardest part.
Yes, but definitely worth it by the sounds of it.
Oh, yeah, I will be. And, I'm still thinking about the seatbelt, but for motorbikes.
Oh, yes. Watch this space. But they've got airbags on them now, so...
Yeah. I think this would be cheaper.
Potentially. Right. Well, thank you very much for joining us and spending some time with me this evening.
Thanks very much.
So for all show notes, I will link some of the things Jock has spoken about in the show notes for this episode, which will be available at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening.